This is the day that the Lord has made. We shall rejoice and be glad in it. Once again, this is Wednesday night when we come right into your home, right there where you are, through your television, through your phone, your computer, or whatever gadget you are using. And I want to say thank you so much for opening up your home for us. We come through open talk. You talk or I talk, or we hear one another and we help one another and we move on. Remember, open talk is founded on the word of God. Whatever comes has its foundation in the word of God. And we bring our guests from different walks of life so they can be able to give us nuggets that we can draw in from their lives. And they have been a great blessing. And I want to welcome you tonight. Tonight we have another couple. You know, open talk is a family talk. We are together, and that's why we encourage you to have your family with you during the open talk. I have a couple with us. This is Muriithi and Carol Wanjau. Muriithi and Carol Wanjau. That's a common, I don't want to say it's a common name. It's a known name. It's a known name in this nation. Some of you have heard of Muriithi and Carol. Some of you have heard of the NDOA program. These are the roots. The roots of the NDOA program. These are the originators, and this is the visionary, the visionary, the lead and visionary of the Mavuno Church. And the Mavuno Church is in 10 different nations and spreading all over and raising up fearless. Fearless is the word. Leaders and. He has authored several books and sold in 6 continents. So, Bwana, we are having treasure here. We are having treasure. So open up your spirit and communicate with us. Send us text messages and tell us what you're picking in the name of the Lord, and just enjoy yourself. So welcome. Do I call you Pastor, Reverend, Bishop, or just Muriithi?
Even Muriithi is fine. Pastor Muriithi. People call me Pastor Muriithi or Pastor M.
Okay.
But Muriithi is fine.
I'll call you Pastor M.
Okay.
I'll call you Pastor M. Well, why don't you greet our viewers tonight?
Well, thank you so much. Good evening, viewers. It's a joy to be here. What a privilege to be today with our bishop, just talking about family. My name is Muriithi Wanjau, as you've heard, and I am a pastor, a lover of Jesus. Somebody who loves to build up families and to extend God's kingdom. Yeah.
Thank you so very much. And Carol, why would you greet our viewers?
Yeah, thank you so much, Bishop. It's an honor to be here in this program. We are really excited and look forward to the conversations that we're going to have today. My name is Carol Wanjau. I'm also a pastor at Mavuno Church, and we're really passionate about marriage. And Bishop here has talked about the book NDOA, and honestly, it has come out of our experiences, good and bad. We have had, quite a number of experiences as a married couple. We've been married for 28 years. We have 3 children, and we just thank God for the journey that He's taken us through.
Wow, thank you so very much. Some of our viewers maybe have not met you. And maybe what I would like to ask is, who is Pastor M?
Pastor M. Well,
where were you born? Where were you brought up?
Yes,
where did you grow and all that?
I am a pastor's kid. My father.
You're a pastor's kid?
Yes, I grew up.
I have a heart for pastor's kids.
Oh, really? Then I'm one of them. And I grew up. My father worked for the government, but he also did ministry. And on retirement, he was ordained in the Anglican Church. But I had the privilege of growing up with parents who are born again, who love the Lord, and who really demonstrated a passion for ministry. Ever since we were small, like many PKs can understand, we were the ones who would close the church when the church was being closed, and we were the ones who would be there early to open it. So I think there was just you could see that they loved God, their marriage was founded on God's word. And so I grew up in Nairobi. We lived in a place called Moi Estate in the Langata area. My parents had moved from the village and gotten jobs in the city. And so we were brought up. I'm the second of 4 children. Initially, I had no intention ever of going into ministry. Not because of them, but I just thought that's for them. you know. But I believe that the power of praying parents. I really believe that as they prayed, the Lord heard their prayers. At one point, I left the way of salvation in high school and went the opposite direction. You know, the problem with people who are supposed to be leaders is if either you're a leader in the kingdom or you're a leader in the kingdom of darkness. I think I entered the other direction and became a terrible person. But I really believe that my parents' prayers, because every morning, the one thing I can tell you is every morning at 5 in the morning, I'd wake up. If you woke up, you'd see a light under their door, and you knew they were praying. And we always knew as children it was us that were a major source of their prayer. And so gave back my life to Christ in high school, at the end of high school. And almost immediately, God just began to lead me deeper and deeper into His work. I got to go to Nairobi University, studied biochemistry, and in that space, actually, that's where I met her. We actually met in college, and was working under a pastor called Bishop Oscar Muriithi, Nairobi Chapel. And he's the one who invited me and said, you should consider coming and serving a year in the church. And I said no. Actually, I didn't say no. You don't tell your pastor no. I told him I'll pray about it. You know, when you don't want to do what the pastor is telling you, you tell him I'll pray. I was thinking I was thinking of how I can run away from this thing the pastor is asking me. But unknown to me, he also asked my girlfriend at the time. And for her, because she did not grow up in the church like I did, for her, she became a believer as an adult, as a college student. And when she was asked, she was so excited that the pastor would want her. I think when people get saved when they are older, they have a real, they know what it is that they have been saved from. So when the pastor asked her, she said, without even consulting me, she said yes, she would like to serve for a year in the church. So when she came and told me later, I was so angry because we had planned to go and study abroad. We had all our plans sorted. And so when the pastor next asked me, have you prayed? I said, Pastor, I prayed, and I think I'll do it. Of course, the motivation was not ministry. It was the girl, unfortunately. But in that 1 year, as you serve the Lord just began to confirm. Every time I did ministry, there was a confirmation. This is where I want you. This is where I want you. And in that process, I reached a place of surrender where I told the Lord, take my life and use it to serve you. And so right from that first year after college, I have served. I did not go into into what I thought I would go into. I went straight into the church, and I've been in the church ever since.
Wow. Yeah. And Carol, now who is Carol? Maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I was also born and raised here in Nairobi. My parents were not believers, but they were not bad people either. In fact, one of the reasons why my father didn't go to church is that he believed he's a good man. And good men don't need to go to church. In fact, that was his understanding, and that was his reasoning. But I had a real hunger for church, even as a child. I remember asking to be taken to church. I was in primary school at the time. And anyway, I'd be taken to church, but because my parents are not going to church, then, that did not become a habit. So I went to high school. I was in Moi Nairobi Girls here. I went to high school, became a believer there. But then it was so different. I mean, my home culture and the school CU was so different. I could not identify with what was going on. And so I backslid. But it was out of just not understanding what this Christianity is about. It was not broken down enough for me to understand. So I went through my high school, and then those are the days we used to do A-levels, went on to A-levels. But I went to a school, a Catholic school, and for some reason, I just did not sense the presence of God. In this other school, I may not have been a believer, but there was a presence of God. In this other one, it was a dry land. So I think that fueled my thirst and hunger for God. And at the end of my A-levels, just before going into college, that's the time that I gave my life to Christ. And I thank God that, maybe there are those people who haven't grown up in homes where they are believers, believing parents. But God, in His mercy, He called me. And I thank God. And I just say, if He had not called me, where would I be? you know, because I didn't have a Christian background. And so, but, you know, subsequent to that, I think also God gave me a very big burden for my family. And so I just continued praying for them, witnessing to them. And I can say that only one person out of 5, no, we were 4 kids and 2 parents, out of 6, only one brother is not yet saved. All the others are saved. And that to me is, I'm just so excited about that. I'm really excited. And so, yeah, after high school, I went on to university where we did biochemistry. That's where we met. And for me, being involved in church, volunteering in church, we were both in the worship team at that time. We were also, I was also in the children's ministry and also with the core campus, the student ministry. That, I cannot tell you the joy. Just the joy of being involved in ministry. And so later on, after that, when we went for further studies, we just went to study about ministry. Wow. And we've been involved since that time.
Oh, that's great. Now that you have talked to the pastor has talked to you, and you have said, yes, I'll give it a go. Yes. And did you start preaching immediately, or what area of ministry?
The pastor was, he did not believe in, he threw us in the deep end. He would tell you, I'm supposed to be preaching there, but since I can't come, you're the one preaching. And so I remember preaching and I would be shaking every time I preached. But here is the thing I come to learn about the gift of God. Sometimes people say that if it is a gift, it's something that you enjoy. And I find a lot of young people with that mistake. Because I did not enjoy preaching. It was the thing I hated the most. But every time I preached, somebody would come, somebody would get saved, somebody would come and tell me that was exactly the word God had for me. So I got the confirmation of my calling through others.
Okay.
You know, I really began to be called pastor before I agreed that I was a pastor. Because every time I preached, God used that gift to be a blessing to others. And so in the process, I had a Damascus, I call it my Damascus Road experience, where God really confronted me one day, and I just had a whole day of prayer before the Lord. And it was a day of weeping because I felt like the Lord was stripping everything that I had ever wanted in my life from me and saying, I am the one who created you. I'm the one who has a plan for you. Those things you're planning for yourself are not my plan. And I remember just slowly opening my hands and saying, okay, Lord, take it. Whatever it is you want, take it. I called at the end of that day, I finished that day, that fast at 6 p.m. It was my first time I'd ever fasted for a whole day, by the way. I walked out of that room. I always say I walked out of that room the poorest I've ever been. Because from that day, I never owned anything. But I was also the richest I've ever been. Because the one who I belonged to owns everything.
Right.
And that has been a theme of our lives, that we don't own anything. That the Father is the one who provides. You know, when you're an ambassador, you don't need to worry about where you stay, where your children will go to school, who will drive you, you know. We just understood that because it is full surrender, then he has to be the one to look after us. And so from that point on is when I started accepting to be called pastor, because God told me, I wanted to be a pharmacist.
Okay.
And I wanted to be a rich pharmacist.
Yeah.
And the Lord told me, that is not your destiny. You're not going to be a rich pharmacist. He said, you're a pastor. So from that day on, I told people I'm a pastor. And from that day on, I accepted to serve in the church. I became a youth pastor immediately. That's the work I did for some time. Then we went to, by God's grace, we got an opportunity to study at Fuller Seminary. So
when did you eventually get married before we
actually,
go to
almost, this is a funny thing. The day that God told me, because I surrendered everything, including my girlfriend. I said, Lord, from now on, if you call me to be single for my whole life, I will serve you single, like Paul. It was that dramatic, you know. I have nothing. If you kill everybody in my family today, that's fine. I will serve you. I will never have a reason not to serve you. The first word God ever told me, because I'd never heard God speak. You know, people would tell me God speaks. I wonder, how does God speak? The first word God told me, he said, marry Carol.
Wow.
You know, I've just left college. We've just finished this internship in the church. And I'm feeling so young. I'm feeling like I still want to do many things, to study. The Lord said, the first thing you'll do is you'll marry her.
You are already friends.
We were even in a relationship, but the plan had not been to get married immediately. It was to get our master's degrees, then now finally we'll get married.
Yeah.
So the Lord said, I want you to marry her. And that was my first command from God.
Yeah.
And I loved the girl, but I had no plan to get married. Initially, I thought that was not God. I completely ignored it. But every time, Bishop, I would open the Word of God, God would give me a word about her.
Wow.
It was very scary. I remember one time I was just reflecting on, I said, I can't afford, I'm still young, I don't even have a job. God, how am I supposed to marry her? And I opened the Bible. That's the first time I ever read Jeremiah 29:11. I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to give you a hope and a future. And I remember even putting the Bible down. I said, huh? But I remember what happened now is we were sent by the church on a mission to Swaziland.
Yeah.
I'd never been to Southern Africa. So I went to Swaziland to serve with a church there, a Pentecostal church there. And during my ministry there, because nobody knew me in the church, I was a stranger. One young lady with a prophetic gift came and told me, you're now in disobedience because the Lord has told you to marry that girl. She has never known me. And she told me, your fears will keep you from hearing what God is saying. And she went on to tell me, here's what the Lord has planned for you. And told me about the children we will have, the home that God is planning for us, and said, just this is actually the Lord's grace for you.
Wow.
So I went and bought an engagement ring. I had no more argument. And I came home, and almost the same weekend, I asked her to be my wife.
What was going on with the car? At this time, now your friend is gone to Swaziland.
He has gone to Swaziland, that's true. But you know, I had been praying.
Yeah.
I had been praying. First of all, I had prayed that I'd marry a pastor. So even that change of plan from pharmacy to pastor, I mean, God hears prayers.
Yeah.
Then the other prayer I had prayed was that I wanted to be married by a certain month the next year. April.
Yeah.
This was 93, now April 94. And you know, God answered that prayer. He spoke to him. He spoke to him. So for me, I think I think I had been very open to marriage, and I know we hadn't really talked about marriage and so on, but for me, I'd been open, and so I was praying, and God heard my prayer. I thank God. He hears, and He intervenes.
Wow. Wow. You know, many years ago, a preacher came to our church. I was in Mombasa. In the church, the pastor was not married.
Yeah.
The whole congregation was not married except one lady who was married, and her husband was not born again. And she was a young lady. So the whole congregation was unmarried. So this man was sent to Mombasa to come and be with us. And he comes in there and he says, brothers, pray for your wife. Sisters, pray for your husband. We are not interested in these things. We are interested in serving God.
Amen.
But we had him and we started praying. Everybody started praying. So when we started getting married, there were no chaos in the church. Things were just falling in part. So I'm capturing that idea of telling our young people it is important for you to pray for your wife even before you ever meet your wife. You pray for your husband before you ever meet your husband. So when you meet, it's going to be cordial. There's going to be understanding. There will be no strife. There will be no battles that are going on. This one is stealing this one from. I can tell you, when I started seeing a sister, and I observed her and I prayed for her, I decided I was going to tell my pastor. Because all of us were not married and we were very close. I was going to tell my pastor that I'm interested in this girl. And I went to his house and we stayed there. At midnight, we used to have a program we called Open Up. In other words, talk your heart. So the pastor said, okay, Mark, open up. I said, no, you open up first. And when he opened up, he told me he's interested in the same girl. The same girl that I was interested in. But because we had been praying, I didn't see any competition. So I told him, I will help him. I will help you. If you send me, I will go. Tell me what you want me to do. I will help you. Then when I went to my house, I knelt by my bed, and I told God, remove this girl from my mind completely. Let her never come into my mind again. You see, this is the goodness of that openness, the open talk that we had. And God is faithful. He removed her.
Wow.
from my heart.
Oh.
And then I kept on asking the pastor, so what is going on? So how far? What can I do? Eventually the pastor told me, no, I have decided I'm not going to in that direction. I will go in a different direction.
Wow.
To cut the story short, the girl ended up to be my wife.
Wow.
and the mother of my children.
Amen.
So the idea of praying, getting people to
Yes.
praying is very, very,
Very
crucial.
critical.
Now, how did you get into this marriage ministry?
Oh, you know, we had a challenge when we first got married, because I was now a youth pastor. I have this beautiful bride who are very young, and by the way, I really advocate for people getting married young. I believe in this culture today, there's just a lot of temptation and a lot of challenges. And for me, I always tell people, if this is something the Lord is calling you to, pray that you get. I pray for my children to get married young. So we got married, and the challenge we found is we didn't know who to ask when we had problems. Because the picture we had been shown about marriage was that things work. If you trust God and you pray, things will work out. So we found that we were confused because we love each other, but not everything is working well. Sometimes you disagree on something. Sometimes you're not sure how to do something. And then what we found is, at least in the context we were, it was very hard to ask. In fact, embarrassing, because I'm supposed to know. At least I felt, maybe the pressure was not from, but I felt a lot of pressure that I'm supposed to know. And I remember just thinking, how will we get help? I remember at one point even telling her, there's a lady, there's an older lady in the church. I say, and they had a very good marriage. I said, can you go and just ask her about this issue? Because seriously, here we are stuck. And go quietly. You have my permission to go and ask her what we should do. You know, Bishop, people did not talk about, I think among the saved, there was almost an understanding, just pray. Things will work out. It was so frustrating that at one point I remember us telling God, if you help us in our marriage, if you show us the solution, we will never allow any other young person to walk around without the knowledge that they need to succeed. Because I found that there are some things that people need to be very open about, but it's very difficult to find the knowledge. In the church, sometimes you want to discuss about even just little things like how to deal with in-laws, how to communicate. Why are we always arguing? You know, is it that we're not saved? Why is it that I can't seem to, every conversation seems to leave me tense? Is that normal? You know? But there's nobody who asks those questions. Even issues like sex. How does it work? You know, we've been told to wait and be ready for the spouse. Then it comes, and of course you're finding yourself in problems and you're wondering, how does this thing work? Why are we not being able to move in this direction and enjoy the way we thought we would? But there's nobody to ask the questions. And so I think at one point we made a commitment to say, Lord, if you will give us the help we need, then we will be sure to share everything openly. We will never have a question that cannot be asked of us in our marriage. And sure enough, the Lord was gracious. He gave us a lot of mentors around that time. He just put us in the homes of many people who just poured into our lives. Because we were a very young couple in Nairobi Chapel. It was just starting. So most of the people were older than us. We were the first couple, I think, who got married in that church. And so God just gave people a heart for us. We started being invited into people's homes. And then we just found that we had a lot of mentors who were able to just help us. And then after that, like as she says, we went to study abroad. And we both studied theology, our first master's degree. And then she had a chance to study psychology. And because of her passion for counseling, again, we got to have a lot of counseling. You know, for you to be a good counselor, you actually need to get counseling. So I would also read, you know, they say you can read from the window. Through her homework, through the discussions, I also got a lot of what she was learning in her psychology. And as we found those things, we just began to discover the things we thought were hard to deal with were not that hard. You know, Bishop, I reached a point 5 years into our marriage when I thought I made a mistake. This is too hard. I don't believe God intended marriage to be this hard. And I remember at that point just feeling, what do I do? How does a pastor come and tell people we made a mistake? You are stuck. But again, through the classes we went through and the Lord just allowing us to find the right mentors at the right time, we began to understand every couple goes through that. It's normal. Every couple goes through a stage of difficulty in their marriage. This is everybody. has gone through this difficulty. And if you feel like you're unique, you're actually not unique. And the problem is not, people say we have irreconcilable differences. I always tell people, of course you have irreconcilable differences. You're not twins. You're not born in the same family. You have come with such big differences. The only way you reconcile them is by bringing them together and bringing them to God. And every couple has irreconcilable differences, except for the Holy Spirit. So we began to then, out of that, even as a very young couple, we made a commitment. We will actually start teaching. The little we know. We may not be experts, but we know a little. More than the couple who is about to get married. So we began to teach. Then to our surprise, we started getting invited a lot into seminars for couples. I think as people heard about us, we started getting involved even. Sometimes we'd find ourselves, we're still in our maybe early 30s. And we're doing seminars and all the couples are in their 60s.
Wow.
Again, because they're not hearing the conversation from anybody. They're saying, let's talk to the one who is actually talking. And we committed that every time we talk, we would share real stories from our life. We would not share just the victories, we would share the struggles as well. And we found that people really resonate when they know you're also struggling with the same thing that we've struggled. So through that is when we ended up writing the NDOA curriculum.
Out of the seminars, actually.
Out of the seminars we would teach.
Yeah.
So from the content we were teaching, we thought, what if we could put this together and create a guide to help couples? And again, in the NDOA curriculum, we shared a lot of our stories. And we all, by the way, we always share the stories where we struggle.
Okay.
Because we say the stories of victory will come to everybody, but eventually. But the struggle is where people are right now. So every chapter, we share either an argument we've had, a problem, how we've struggled in this area. Then we show what we've learned that has helped us to overcome.
Okay.
And
So in what areas did you struggle most as a newlywed?
Yeah. I think probably there were two areas. Number one was not understanding that every couple goes through what we call the drama phase. We had not understood that. I think we came to understand that there are 4 phases in a marriage. There's the dream phase where you're in love and you're getting married, and I think that is the phase that, at least as women, I don't know about men, we believe we're going to live there happily ever after. I think there's that dream that you're going to live there. But then when the drama comes, when the conflict comes, when the differences, not understanding one another, I think that to us was very threatening. And I think that's what he was referring when he was saying, have I married the wrong person? Incidentally, I never had that thought. I don't know. But not understanding that, every marriage goes through problems. And even as he says, not understanding that, not having people to talk to. I think that was also very challenging. But then the other thing was just understanding we're different personalities. Once you understand you're a different person, it solves most of the problems. So, he's a strong leader type, who I will say, will, push his agenda and, move ahead. Very apostolic. And then for me, I'm not that way. For me, I'll tend to think through things a little bit slower. I want a little bit more. I might not want the big crowds. I may want a little more silence. I may be more contemplative than he is. So I just think those differences. So like I think when it came to, say, even the issue of hosting, for him, he preferred that we host, that we go out, that we are with friends all the time. To me, that was so tiring. And then for him, he felt, oh my goodness, have I been doomed to a dull marriage? Have I been doomed to that? So understanding those kinds of differences as far as our personality goes, it was very helpful to say, oh, you mean you're more outgoing, me, I'm not always outgoing. But how do we meet each other halfway? Because you're a person of people. I can't just say all the time, I don't want to go, or I don't want to be out there as much. So I think those were the things that
And I think as you begin to discover those differences, then you begin to understand that part of when you begin to understand that it's not bad.
Evil.
It's not evil.
Yeah.
It's just different. Different family backgrounds, different personalities. That those things actually were not a mistake. God actually gave you this person with those differences because that's what you need in your life. And we meet so many couples, even pastors, who tell you, I'm no longer in love. I don't understand. I no longer love her. I no longer, especially when somebody is determined to divorce or separate, they tell you, I no longer feel in love. There's nothing that can be done. But we tell them, love is not a feeling. Love is actually an action, and feelings follow the action of commitment. And so we began when we began to learn that, we were able to then understand, if you hang in there, because part of the reason why you're now rubbing against each other is because you had an ideal picture. Well, that time you felt you're in love, you had an ideal picture of the spouse, which is actually not a real picture. It's a picture you made up in your imagination. This sister should be like this. Because in your mind, you've always wanted that. So when you found a sister who was similar, you assumed that's what she is, but you don't really know her. Then you got married, and you start to know the real her. And the real her is not approximating to your picture. And that's where conflict comes. Because conflict in a marriage comes from me trying to change you, and you trying to change me. Now, when you hold on to that and you stop, and you just insist that you will not be happy until this person becomes your picture of reality, that marriage will always be doomed to problems. But when you begin to understand that actually God in his sovereign wisdom gave me a different person from myself. And what I need to do is start to actually understand. The Bible says love is patient, love is kind, love, all those things that are said in 1 Corinthians 13 would not have been said if love was easy. God knew you would need patience. You would need to be kind. When you're in love, you don't need to be kind. Whenever she says, give me this, you buy for her with all your money. But at that point, kindness means I have to make a decision. Even when I don't feel like it, I will buy that thing that I know will make you happy. So when you begin to understand that, and you stop trying to change the person, God leads you into the third stage. As she said, the first stage is dream. Then your drama, which is where the fighting is coming in. But then you move to the third stage, which is called discovery. And discovery is when you begin to discover the other person for who they really are, not what you thought.
And this happens to every marriage,
every couple has to go through this stage.
Well, although you can get stuck in drama.
There are people who get stuck in stage 2. And they stay there for the rest of their lives. They've never, somebody has always been resentful. This husband of mine, what he told me is not who he is, and you get stuck there. But if you agree to allow, that's where forgiveness comes in. Somebody said marriage is about forgiveness. When you start to release the person, to turn your attention to God and allow God to heal the person. We always say, I pray for you, I work on me. Often many people make it the opposite. I pray for me, I work on you. But when you turn it around and stop working on the person, because you cannot change a person. You cannot even change a child, God has given people what you call a free will. They have to make a decision for themselves. So stop working on changing your spouse. Focus on changing you to become the spouse God wants you to be.
I think that's something you need to say again and say very firmly, because there's a couple out there that is struggling tonight, and they are there. Sunday they are coming to church. They will be smiling. But between now and Sunday, it's nil by mouth.
It's nil by mouth.
Because there is that struggle to change. And some of them are stuck. You said in stage 2.
Stage two. You're stuck there. And it's you're working on the person. And when you come to church, Pastor, pray for me, my marriage. So you're looking for prayer for yourself. But you're working on changing the other person. There's only one who is meant to change a person. That's the Holy Spirit. So your best is to pray for them. But for yourself, you actually have the power to change yourself. You can decide, I'm not going to be so angry. I'm not going to start holding you to become like my father. I'm not going to start having that expectation, because you know what? You may not be, the expectations I'm putting on you may be unfair. They may be from my family background. You did not grow up in that family background. Maybe what I need to be doing is actually looking to appreciate the things you actually have, rather than looking for the things you don't have. So this is one of the things we teach couples. And when couples turn their attention away from the spouse and turn it to the Lord, God begins to replace, because you stop now wanting something that is not there and start appreciating the thing that is there. And you see your spouse has beautiful gifts that you don't know about, but you're not even willing to explore them because you're looking for the ones you want.
Like I remember just recently we were talking to a certain couple, and for this lady, she had certain expectations from home. And those expectations from home, they are very serious, because they're very emotional. And the expectations from our families back home are, this is the way that you show you love. You show you love by calling You show you love by whether, I don't know, just whatever ways of
Supporting.
supporting. Yeah. So for this lady, she felt that her husband was not responding well enough for her family. She expected that he takes the phone and calls her mother. And she expected that when her siblings call, that he's going to respond in a certain way.
Because that's what she does.
That's what she does.
For his family.
Yes.
So she's saying, why are you not doing it for my family?
Yeah, and her pain was that it shows that you don't care for my family. You don't care for them because you're not doing these things. And for him, he was feeling, no, that's not my family background. And for him, his family, they don't act that way towards each other. So this lady finally at one point told me, I have released him. I have decided if he doesn't call my mother, I'm okay. If he doesn't call my siblings, I'm okay. It does not mean that he doesn't love them, but I'm okay with, what he's doing. Now that is the step towards discovery.
Okay.
That is the step, because then you're beginning to say, so who is this man? What is his family like? Clearly, they do not relate with one another the way my family does. And I cannot have that expectation of him. So at that point, when it's dying to self, it really is. When you're saying it is okay, you feel, oh my goodness. Because for her, she felt she needed to defend her husband when he didn't call. You see, so it was something very important to her. So it's a dying to self of that expectation. And I know for her, the question is today, what will I tell my siblings? What will I tell my parents? That my husband is not doing these things, what will I tell them? Yet it is okay. I mean, I can't hold him to that standard. The more I push, the more he's, not doing what I'm asking him to do.
And those rules were not set in his family, they were set in mine. Why should I expect what my father and mother set for us to be affecting him? He had a different father and mother, So I feel like for her now, because she has reached the place of releasing, of course, after a lot of pain and tears, feeling that he doesn't love my mother, he doesn't love my father, he doesn't care about us. Finally, when she gets to a place where you say, I release this person, let the Lord deal with them. For me, I'm going to keep being who I am, but I'll pray for them that the Lord will show them how to become. I'm going to start praying for my husband differently. Rather than, Lord, make him this. I'm even going to start praying, Lord, show me how to appreciate what he is. That leads to discovery. And when you reach the discovery, and Bishop, let me tell you, even the people who are hearing now, it's not an easy thing. Because they will hear this and think they've understood it, but you will still find yourself going back to your expectations. And that's why they usually say that it takes about 12 years for a couple to get out of the drama phase.
12 years
of being married.
Yeah.
Okay.
A normal, healthy couple, not the one who is stuck,
Fighting.
but the ones who are normal and healthy, it will take them about 12 years to get to the place where you fully release the other person to be who they are meant to be.
Wait, how long have you been married? You are struggling and you are just 8 years.
8 is very young.
10 years. You have 4 years to go.
Exactly.
I think that is so important.
Exactly.
Because you see, Hosea 4:6, my people perish for lack of knowledge.
Yes.
And this is the knowledge that it's not there, it's not availed.
Yes.
But now that God has put it in you, and you have come to open talk.
So when you find a couple who have reached that stage, you realize there's no longer that pain of we are always disagreeing. We are always and wondering, why is it that we are the only ones with this problem? You see, now, first thing, as she says, we understood everybody goes through it. So we stopped feeling like we're strange. Then number 2, we realized if you work through it, you will get out of it. So we started realizing all we need to do is just go back to the Lord, love each other, trust God, and wait, because as we are just building our marriage through obedience, because at that stage, love becomes obedience. I wake up and I serve my wife, not because I'm feeling like serving her, but because the Lord has told me to love her. As we do those actions, the feelings start coming back. And in discovery phase, you find you're no longer in that place of disagreement. It's very easy to agree on something. You've come to fully accept who this other person is, and you're okay with them being different. You're no longer trying to impose your vision on them of what you want a wife to be. And I can tell you it's a good place for couples to get to. So when we got there, what also we learned is there's another stage after that, because also couples get stuck now there. We're no longer fighting, we're no longer in disagreement. So you find now at that stage, they start focusing on other things, because the marriage is no longer a place of pain. So now they focus on their children, they focus on their career, they focus on their ministry, they neglect building this relationship. And yet this thing is the one thing you say in life, till death do us part. Yeah, it's the only thing. Anything else in this, or your career, you will leave it. Even ministry, you get to a place where you no longer be able to do ministry. You may have a title, but you cannot preach because you're too old. But you will never stop being the husband of that wife until death happens, you know? And so what happens at that stage is many couples cannot, if you've ever had, Bishop, of couples who separate or divorce without fighting. One day people saw them together, another day you found they're not together. Or also what happens a lot in our culture, you find the children go abroad to study. Then mama gets a visa. She says she's going to see her grandchildren. And then you're wondering, this woman went 2 years ago. She has never come back. And you're wondering,
not missing Mzee?
And isn't she missing Mzee? That's a very common thing. But what happened is that this couple, they neglected to invest in their marriage at that point. So they didn't leave each other because they don't like each other. They're okay with each other, but they did not invest in the relationship. So we tell people, even when you enter the discovery phase, you still invest, because there's another stage coming. And that stage is the fourth stage is called the depth stage. And in depth, what has happened is you get to the place where you find you are now completely compatible. You are really friends. You need each other. You enjoy each other. You know, the differences that used to irritate you, now they're the ones you laugh at, you know? And there's a place where in that stage, there's a joy in marriage. You see, like I said, I grew up in church, surrounded by many good Christian couples. But Bishop, I didn't see this example of depth until when I went to Swaziland. And I was in my 20s. That's the first time I saw a Christian couple who had such a beautiful marriage that all we wanted to do as single people in the church is just come and sit in their house and look at them. I mean, they just laugh. They're relaxed. They're easy around each other. It was such a joy to be around them. They were not competing in any way. But there's a work that you have to put in to end up with a marriage like that. There's an investment you have to put in. And I believe that God's intention for every marriage is to end up in that stage. But because of lack of knowledge, many times we neglect to invest in this relationship.
I think it is so crucial when our young people discover that it's not just in your marriage, it's not just in your there are hills and valleys and mountains to climb. And is there a point where somebody feels now we have left this stage, we need to go to the next stage, or is it just something that is just a flow?
I don't know if it just... Actually, what happens is that I think the most critical stage is stage 2, which we call the drama. I think you've heard of the phrase that says, it was a book that was written where it said that God did not give you marriage to make you happy, but to make you holy. Yeah. So once in that depth drama phase, once you understand that God is out to make me holy and not necessarily happy, when you understand that all the trials that you're going through are, if you allow them, they're achieving something. You know how we say in Romans 8:28, all things work for good. What does God want me to learn from this situation? Once you move your focus from trying to change the other person and you say, what does God want me to learn? What does he want me to change? Once you get that shift in attitude, then that's when you move to the third phase, and you're going to feel it. You're going to feel, I don't need to struggle. The fight is over. I now understand that God has a purpose in everything. But it's not an easy thing to shift to that, because sometimes people are embroiled in a lot of conflict, a lot of blaming, especially the whole thing of blaming, a lot of anger. It's a very hot space to be. That's why it's called drama. It's very dramatic. But getting that shift of God is here to make me holy, and he wants me to learn something, and he wants me to change. If you don't get to that point, that's where we say it gets very prolonged. But if you overcome that and you say, okay, Lord, this is my lesson, let me run with it. It's not his lesson, it is my lesson. Then you will stop being so tense, and you're going to free up your marriage like this for the Holy Spirit to work upon it and to work upon your own life. You're going to be like this, and the tension will go. Even in that relation, even in your own mind, the tension will go. And in the marriage, the tension will go. So you will feel it.
So the crucial thing is the realization and the decision to make. I realize she's from a different, from maybe different culture. Maybe we may talk about that later on.
It could even be different cultures.
She's different, brought up in a different place. I am different, and I have no intention of changing her. And
only God will change her. And also, for me, the other way I put it, Bishop, is I say there is a way that when you enter nursery, you know you're going to get to university. That is the intention. But you cannot skip to get to university now. There is work that has to be done. And when you understand that, you know that I have to pass, I have to go through this education system. When I go to standard 1, I start there. I go all the way to standard 8 or whatever now it is getting to. Then I go to another institution called high school. Again, I'm starting now from 0 there. Here I was at the top, but I've gone to another stage. I believe that the stages of marriage are similar. Some people, when they hear this, the young couples, they say, what can I do now to get to stage 3? But you know what? You have to pass. There's a work of sanctification God has to do in your life. And as he's doing it, he's getting you ready. And a time will come when you will know. Actually, you will know. There will be a testament in your spirit. You will know we are no longer where we were. But there's some stages you have to go through to get to that place. But I think, as you say, when the knowledge is there, then you're no longer threatened. Oh, we had an argument. Okay, every couple has. What do we do now? How do we call it, how do we fight fair? How do we make sure that there are some things I never say in anger? There are some actions I never take in anger, because we are working on building this thing. To tell you, you will never amount to much. You're just like your mother. There are some things you can say that will keep you stuck. So even just having those conversations that you're able to say, you know what, as we talk, for me, one of the things she taught me is, don't raise your voice. I come from a family where we are very loud. When we sit at the table, you talk. If you don't talk loudly, nobody will hear you. Or they will assume you have nothing to say. So we all talk loudly. Now, our family, they're very relaxed. Wangwana, they take turns talking. So me, she would be waiting for me to give her the turn. But I'm thinking, this one has nothing to say, so let me just tell her. Now we had to have that conversation together where we say, when we're having a disagreement, how would you want me to treat you? And then she would say, okay, number 1, don't raise your voice. It doesn't help. Number 2, so she could give me her things that if I don't feel like talking about it right now, please allow me to say, can we talk tomorrow? So we came up with some ground rules. Then even me, I was able to give her my side. And tell her, if you tell me we talk tomorrow, it has better be tomorrow. Because there are some people there are times I could feel she would be happy to just park it and never discuss it, So we were able to now talk about how do we come up with our rules for our family. So in the NDOA program, we actually help couples understand how to set rules that are now our constitution for the family. Because we came from rules here. But now we have to create our own rules that help us to have a conflict that is healthy. Because conflict is healthy if it is done well. Because it is the way we get to know each other. From the way you reacted, I can tell you don't like that. Tell me what it is. So conflict is not something to run away from. It is something to embrace, because it helps me get to know the other person. If we have good ways of managing it.
Wow. And now you are married, and the kids have come.
Have come, yes.
What happens?
I think with kids, one I'd say is many couples make a mistake sometimes of being child-centered, where they begin to focus a lot on the kids at the expense of the marriage. For us, we've always said, these kids came and found us here, they will leave us here, So we make sure that we don't forget to, especially in ministry, it's very easy to neglect our relationship.
Yeah.
Because we are so busy. Children come at the time when the ministry is also growing. If you're in business, your business is growing at that time. The responsibilities are growing. So how do you prioritize time for your marriage? And even from a very young, early age with the children, be able to say, this is children time, this is now parents time, So I think those are some of the things we had to learn, because we realized these children are like now our children are all in university. Yeah. So very soon they're out of the home, but this thing will remain. Yeah. And I don't want her going to America to look for... You better have a good friendship here. Yeah. So I think that's...
That is one of the things. And I think, Bishop, one of the things that we really realize is that we cannot do it by ourselves. I do not think we have that wisdom, that we had that wisdom to make sense of parenting. And so I think our life has always been, we seek mentors. We've sought help. And the thing about parenting, it's like marriage, where you assume, see, I was parented. Surely I'm a parent. I've given birth. But we realized we didn't have what it takes. And again, even in parenting, people come from different backgrounds and different values. So he was raised up a certain way, I was raised up a certain way. For them, church was a must every Sunday. For us, we didn't go to church at all. So if a child at that point said, oh, mommy, I can't make it to church, I might not stress too much about that. But for them, I think you'd pray, lay hands, and still go to church.
Yeah, if you're sick, you just lay hands,
and go to church. So you see, those are the differences that they may seem small, but sometimes they can bring quite a bit of conflict. So we actually went through a program. You'll hear us talking about programs all the time, but I think it's understanding we don't have what it takes. So we had mentors who we watched. We saw how they were raising their children. Some were just doing an amazing job. They were raising children a way that we were not raised. They also later on wrote books, which we went through programs with them, and just a whole thing of understanding. Yes, we cannot have a child-centered marriage, and secondly, children come disorganized, and it's up to you to organize them and for them to fit into your family structure and system, and not the other way around. So I think those are some of the things that
apart from NDOA, there's another program now that was written by several mentors that is called Lea Kulea Mtoto. And it's a parenting, it's also 10 weeks just like NDOA. And the whole idea is to teach you how to be a parent God's way.
Yeah.
Because many times people learn parenting just by watching their parents. But nobody sits you down to instruct you and say, this is what to do when this happens. This is how to discipline in the biblical way. So when those mentors wrote that course, many people have gone through it.
Yes.
It completely changed our marriage and our children parenting.
Yeah.
And I find just having instruction. So one of the reasons now, like I said, we began, because of not having that instruction, we decided we're going to be very keen to look for instruction for ourselves, but also to provide it where we didn't find it. So we wrote NDOA, which is a 10-week course on marriage. We got these mentors, they wrote a book called Lea, which now we use in all our churches. But we've also, many other churches use it. And then we also wrote a program called Couples and Money. And Couples and Money was written because we realized of all the issues that we handle in NDOA, one of the biggest ones for couples is money. Not understanding how to use their money together. And that issue is the leading cause of divorce and separation worldwide. So we said, how can we teach couples from scratch how to marry their money? Because you find couples are married, but their money was never married. So how do we help them to actually put their money together and learn to work as a team? So I think that's another way that we've found that.
I think that's something that I would like you to talk about quite some, because it's something affecting many marriages.
Yes.
And I thought that would be a program by
we'd be happy to do that. Yeah, that's a huge topic, as you say, Bishop.
Yeah, because our time is also gone.
Yeah.
If somebody is in your course, the NDOA course, do you only deal with the people who are not married, or do you bring
actually, what we do, because the book it's relevant for everybody. So we take people through the course for single people who are who are engaged, couples who are engaged planning to get married. But we also take couples who got married, but they feel like their foundation is not where they want it to be. Or maybe they just want to strengthen their foundation. Because we challenge couples every year or two, do something to strengthen your marriage. Even if you've got a good marriage, do something to invest. So we have one cohort, which is always people who have been married for some time and who are now coming to strengthen. And then we have one cohort of people who have never been married and are learning about marriage. And even for the churches that we've trained, because we've trained many churches to run the program, not just here, but in many different countries. But we always train them to have the two different classes, so that you separate the issues, because people who have never been married have very different issues from people who've been married for a while. And we find that people stay friends. Actually, one of the beautiful things about the course is you take it with couples you don't know. By the time you're done, couples will give you testimonies of, we've been together for 10 years with those couples. They became our family friends who are able to deal with even issues after the course and keep reminding ourselves. Some of them even continue meeting monthly just to keep refreshing the things they've learned. And so, yeah. Okay,
well, our time is so much spent. And maybe what would be your last shot that you would like to give to the viewer, and then the pastor will also say something. Then we will fix another
wrap it up. Okay. I think as far as marriage goes, my thinking would be we don't have what it takes. We always need to seek for help. And that is, and I think pride comes in the way. Let's just call it what it is, Bishop. Sometimes pride comes in the way where we feel that we know or that we can do it. But if we can humble ourselves, the Lord will help us. Yeah, the Lord will
humble ourselves. Come on, man. The thing is, humble yourself and realize you need help. Yes, Pastor, your last shot.
Yeah, every couple will have problems. Every couple has problems. So never feel like your problems are unique. The Bible says no temptation has seized you except what is common to man. And even if you leave your spouse and get another spouse, trust me, you will still have to go through those stages again. And many people get shocked when they find out with themselves with another spouse and finding themselves in exactly the same problem. And so don't quit on your spouse. This is a season for you to understand that every couple goes through this, and God's intention is through the challenges you're going through, you will actually have a fantastic marriage. It is possible. It is God's will. It is His desire for you. So don't give up on your husband. Don't give up on your wife. There is hope. There is help. Work on you. Pray for them and see the work of God happening in your marriage. And one day you will have a testimony that marriage with Jesus is possible.
I like that. Work on you.
Pray for them.
Pray for them.
Yeah.
So, man, you work on yourself, Bwana. Lady, work on yourself. You don't work on him. You work on yourself. Let God deal with her, or God deal with him, and your life will never be the same again. Well, thank you so very much, Pastor Muriithi and Carol, for being with us. So I want to say we are so much honored to have you with us. Thank you so much for availing yourselves, and I pray that you will avail yourselves again.
Yes, we will.
Our viewers, you have heard for yourself. This is Open Talk. Your pastor and your friend, Bishop Mark Karaoke, for a long time. You talk or I talk, or we hear one another and we help one another. I hope you have picked something from our guests tonight. The riches that is in them. And the fact that your marriage is not unique. All marriages have problems. They have problems. They have challenges. Conflict is not anything new. It is a way of learning. So please, I pray that you will be meditating on what you have received, and then it will help you, and you will forever remember this. This is your pastor and your friend, Bishop Mark Karaoke, coming to you from Open Talk. You talk or I talk, or we hear one another. May the Lord bless you. Have a super week. We'll see you on Sunday in church, or you will see you next Wednesday on Open Talk.